Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we're going over highlights from Game Informer's latest article featuring Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome to True Strike.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the show.
Howdy.
Back again today, talking about Dungeons and Dragons. It's been a bit.
It has been a bit.
It's been a hot minute.
Daggerheart has been consuming our lives.
Yeah, and Dungeons and Dragons news has been a little bit slow.
Yeah, well, they're getting ready for this big 50th anniversary push of the 2024 revision and slipping a little bit into 2025.
Yeah,
but
there was a Game Informer interview.
Yes.
Right? An article where the person who wrote it, I forget the name off the top of my head. I probably should have looked that up before I started talking about it. But they did an interview. They actually went to D&D headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I recently just signed up for Game Informer again.
By Matt Miller.
I have not been a subscriber to Game Informer for a long time. But they did an interview on a podcast. Talking about Game Informer still being around, number one, and going through a lot of reform and trying out some new stuff as far as contents and consider and stuff like that, and trying to make a comeback.
They've got to stay relevant.
And it's been a long time since I've been subscribed to Game Informer, but the interview won me over, and I was like, I'm interested in Game Informer again, so I re-upped.
Sweet.
Yep.
So we will get to that. But hey, this is your last chance to roll with hope with True Strike. This shirt will be going away at the end of May. All the proceeds, which literally, like I said, is $1. So every dollar of every shirt sold will be going to the Critical Role Foundation. If you'd prefer to donate directly, you can go to critroll.com/foundation. But for anyone who's purchased a shirt so far, thank you very much for representing us and helping the Critical Role Foundation. We will roll with hope all throughout May.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
So, one of the first things that I thought was cool from this article is that they pointed out that this is the first time in Dungeons and Dragons history that the core book designers from one set of books are returning to do the next one.
Yes.
So you've got, Chris Perkins and Jay Carl and stuff, and they're coming back together, and they're working on this one with the hindsight of not only, what they did, but why they did what they did with the last, the 2014 version of the 5th edition. So that's kind of a neat thing. I'd actually think about that either. And, over the 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons, cool that this finally happened, I guess, but it didn't even occur to me to think, you've got new eyes and new hands on this every time. Maybe that's not the best way to go about, changes for a new book, because every edition changes so much and drastically, and you've seen fan bases splinter off. And I mean, look at Pathfinder. It exists because of splintering off from one rule set to the next on editions. But with this, they're able to just make slight tweaks and important tweaks. And I mean, before they were afraid of what does advantage mean and stuff. That's why True Strike was such a bad spell before. Because they thought it was good. They thought it was in a good place. They were like, advantage is a very powerful tool, which it is. But it's not powerful enough that you need to waste, your whole turn pointing at somebody and saying, I'm going to get you next turn.
Next time around.
And then, this advantage is really going to pay off when you could just attack twice.
Yeah.
But that is going to be fixed in the next edition. Well, revision.
No, like you said, it's interesting that they're coming back for the core because as things happen, so as you get all these side books released and all these new rules and how they interact, it's easy to see how things become so muddy over time, right? And then it's not as clean as it once was.
No, because their design language and they're learning from the fans, and things are adapting and becoming more modern. 10 years is quite a lot of time.
That's quite a lot of time for a lot of different things to change and maybe not be so clear anymore or have a clear definition as to how it's supposed to interact in the worlds and the rules universes and everything like that. So it is really cool to have just a core group of people that really understand the game,
Mhm.
right? And I think we're going to get something very clean out of this because of that.
I agree. Lots of, playtesting from players like us and you guys. And then just a little side thing. I hate that it's the 2024 revision of the Players Handbook of the 5th edition and stuff. I wish it was 1 D&D still.
Yeah.
But there's a stink to it.
There's a stink to it, and there's going to be camps of people that are on both sides of this. I was hyped for the Great Reset.
Yes.
That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be its own thing. I am, not as I'm attached to Dungeons and Dragons, of course, but I'm not as attached to the nostalgia part of things, where I have to have everything be backwards compatible with everything that I've done previously, and I have to have it be a revision instead of a new version.
5.5 would have been rad.
Yeah.
Just 5th edition still, but different is interesting.
Yeah.
But they're sticking to it.
They're sticking to it,
Hey.
for better or for worse. It's here.
And we'll see within the next few months, better or worse. But you could see on June 18th if you want to pre-order it, because the pre-orders will go live. Each book is going to be priced at $49.99.
I was shocked.
That is that low?
Yes.
Me too. Especially with the whole penguin house and everything.
Yes. If you had asked me weeks ago, what's the pizza bet for how much this book was going to be?
Ooh.
I've
got mine locked in. I'm not gonna write it. It's locked in. I'm not honor system.
$75.
I was gonna say $79.99.
Okay.
I was gonna say 80.
You were gonna say 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna come in clean at 75. I was gonna say $75, $74.99. I thought it was gonna be. That's what I would say.
Ooh, you know what would have been cool? $80 includes D&D Beyond digital edition,
Interesting.
which basically would have made sense with this pricing.
Are they still not able to do that? They could.
I mean, there's gonna be the digital bundles.
There's going to be a bundle available,
But
yeah, for sure. We don't know what the
$50.
price is going to be. But yeah,
Pretty
I
good.
was surprised. Yeah, I really did expect this to be a more expensive book, considering they've been touting how large it is, how much content is in
Yeah.
here. We know how much content is in here. And it is not just the book. It is the amalgamation of the book and all these other subtitles, which if you were to take all the books that it took to make this book,
Yeah,
it is
right.
a lot more than $50
and
of book.
Xanthars and
Yeah.
384 pages in each of these 3 books, which is interesting because I do wonder at what point is this why we're getting bastions? Like, are they like, we need something for the Dungeon Master guide, but the DMG is looking a little light.
Yeah, it's looking light in comparison.
We got to hit 384 pages, and I know the page limit is has to do with the printing and everything like that. They need a specific amount of page, and because of that, layout matters so much, and there's so much goes into making these books. And hey, these are some hefty books for only $50.
Yeah.
Do you think that's
Shocking.
because they want us to want to buy them?
Yeah, I think that they're reading the room quite well.
Yeah.
But I do think that if they sold it for $75, they would have sold them anyway.
To as many people.
To as many people, maybe.
Because I could go
don't know.
buy a current 5th edition book right now for $25.
Who's going to, though? The
People who-
diehards.
Well, it's all backwards compatible anyway.
The diehards. But let's be honest. If you're in the system, if you're in Dungeons and Dragons, you're playing it regularly, you're not replacing it with something else like Daggerheart or Pathfinder or anything like that. You're going to buy this book.
Yeah, but for a...
Even if you're buying the Beyond,
Sure.
you're going to buy the physical. I look at your shelf, and I call you liar if you say otherwise.
But $225, 75 each? That's a hefty sum to get the trio.
For cores.
Right.
And when you look at the track record for how often these books are going to be replaced, over an investment of 10 years, it's practically nothing.
I think it would have been a bad move. I think
Would have
this
been a
is
bad
great
move. I think this is a great move.
$150, they'll end up coming out with like a collector's bundle
But I am
for
surprised.
another like 150 or whatever.
But yeah, I'm happy with this price. I think it's good. I think they're going to sell a lot of books because of it. Like I said, I'm just shocked. I thought it was going to be more. I really did think it was going to be more, especially with the publishing stuff that happened.
Well, if you want to pay more, you'll be able to get the alternate cover.
Yeah.
Those always, fetch a little bit more. Which, hey, if I'm wrong on that, I don't actually know the price of the alt cover this time around, but I know I have paid more for alternate covers before.
Yes, because alt covers sometimes will sell out. We've been lucky to be in an area that has availability of alt covers for quite some time. after
because they're
release.
more.
And yeah, so not everybody is like that. Some people, have to rush to get their alt cover books, whereas some people can, still walk in and get alt covers, a couple weeks after the fact because they have an area where it's not as popular as far as collectors in the area. We happen to be in one of those areas. Like, it was nothing for me to go and get the alt cover for Strixhaven. Like, it was, I think it was like a month after release, I was able to walk up and still buy the alt cover for Strixhaven just because, well, one, it's Strixhaven. And then two, not a lot of people in our area are buying alt covers.
Niche and a niche.
Yeah.
But
I still stand by. That was a really good book.
The golden dragon in the art on this alt cover is gorgeous. And speaking of which, if you're looking to pick up the Players Handbook, I know we, mentioned it's the game's Players Handbook's going to be releasing, September 17th, 2 weeks early. Pick it up at your, friendly local gaming store. And September 3rd, 2 weeks before official release, you'll be able to snag this alternate cover right off the shelf and start playing with your updated characters, which I am stoked for. And yep, you read the room quite literally. I am absolutely going to be picking up the physical because I want it. And I'm going to pick up the D&D Beyond because I need you guys to have the updated characters. So
we just pass the book around.
Sure. That'll work. I like your idea. You buy the book, we'll pass it around.
Okay. I will buy this book because it has a lot of new art.
It sounds like all three are gonna have this big focus on art this time around. I say hopefully. They better not. Don't do AI. Don't let it slip through this time, Watsy.
It's not possible, right?
They can't, right?
It is not possible that anything.
They won't get away with it this time. This would be bad.
There is no way that there is a single bit of AI art in any one of these books.
I agree.
There's
no way.
It's not possible.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. It'd be rough.
It would be rough.
So these 384 pages of all three books, God, we're gonna get so much beautiful human-made art, which is a weird thing we have to say nowadays. Yes. But I can't wait to see it all.
No, and what we have seen has been super impressive.
Yes,
I love good artwork in a book, and that's like one of the first things that I look at when I pick up a book for any game. Is I start thumbing through and looking at like the full page art and even like the side scribble art and the margins and stuff like that. That kind of stuff is like super important to me. I love looking at it, and I like when there's a uniform art style too, where it's not like different throughout the entire book. Everything kind of ties in, even though you have different artists that are all kind of in the same theme. But it seems like there's a big focus on artwork this time around, which is great.
Yeah, speaking of your full page art, it sounds like, at direct quote, page filling art, if you're on podcast, air quotes, for all 12 classes and each of their 4 subclasses. So we're looking at 12 classes, Artificer, Begone, and all 48 subclasses are each going to have art for all of them. So you can basically look at this book, flip through as a newcomer to the hobby, and go through a player select screen.
Yes, which is really cool.
It's rad.
Like, that's just neat, being able to see visual representations, because reading something on a page when you're a new person is one thing. That visual representation changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it.
You're also going to have individual weapon art.
This I love.
Oh, of course.
Because I have been guilty of looking up weapons before.
What is a glaive?
I'm like, I'm not sure. I need a visual here. Because
which
sometimes
is fair.
When I'm picking a weapon, I'm not picking it based on stats. I'm picking it based on how cool my character's going to look.
You've done that for Daggerheart. You did it for Rivet Bottom.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't care which one's better. I wouldn't use that mall.
Yeah. So it's like, I like this, the leaning into art even more and doing individualized weapons. That's cool. So that way there's no question as to what you're picking and what it's going to look like in your mind's eye.
Speaking of art, they're going to have art of spells mid-cast.
That's cool.
Not just you like pulling out the components and mixing it together in your hand. You spit and you like, ha! No, it's the ha! It's like halfway to the enemy. You can see what it looks like to cast it and what the effect actually looks like, at least interpreted by Watsy. As always, interpret it your own way and flavor it however you feel is natural to your character and what you're envisioning.
Yeah, this is cool because, well, one, I mean, this was really neat when we saw it in the Dungeons & Dragons movie. We got to see the live action versions of spells and component pouches and everything like that. And it was really cool to being able to see spells that you really only ever saw in your mind's eye before.
Yes.
Right. And now you're getting to see it like moving in a motion picture. And when Strixhaven came out, there was a lot of art in that book that depicted casting of spells, because that's the whole setting.
Yeah,
is, you know, not Hogwarts. And a lot of those things were really cool. A lot of that art, because it was showing spells, and they didn't outwardly say what spell was being cast in the artwork, but you kind of had inferred from the stuff that is the lore that was on the page and everything like that. So I think this is going to be really cool, and I'm hyped to see what kind of spells we're actually seeing artwork for.
I mean, like, one of the big ones, right? One of the most popular Dungeons & Dragons spells of all time, Fireball.
Yeah.
If I just tell you I cast Fireball, what are most people going to picture, right? Is it this giant fireball, like just flying from the sky at you? Or is it this really thin line of like twisting flame and then just a massive explosion once it makes contact? I'm picturing the second one, but only because I've been in the hobby for a bit. Previously, it would have been this big, like, Goku-sized spirit bomb looking thing coming at you. Ha! Twice. 2 episodes in a row.
Referencing things I've never watched.
I'll show you later. I'll show you a video. You know what I'm talking about. He's got the spiky hair. It's like Mickey Mouse style. No matter which way he turns, his hair is always the same direction. Speaking of art, monsters. And not just monsters, Richard. Art of monsters using the attack they're best known for.
This is interesting.
Uh-huh.
I want to see what this is.
Like, I'm stoked. I want to see it
really
so bad. Okay. What attack is a zombie best known for?
That's I don't even know. That's what I'm saying. Like, some of these creatures, like, I don't know what attack they're best known for. Like, what attack is an owlbear best known for? Is it a slashing attack or like a beak bite?
I think right now it's like jumping from the top rope.
Oh yeah, just body slamming. Is that what that whole page is gonna be? It's gonna be little bitty guy down here, and then a giant owlbear
over the top
on this side of the page.
Yeah,
other side of the page is going to be the target.
I'm so excited.
If they don't have that in this book, I'm gonna be slightly disappointed.
Yeah, I want to see it. Get on it, Watsy. They got time. That'll be Monster Manual.
There's
right?
time. Yeah, there's time.
We're fine. Okay. Away from the art a little bit. It turns out that the opening chapter of the Player Handbook is going to mix it up a bit. And instead of focusing on character creation right off the jump, it's going to focus on, believe it or not, playing the game.
Wow.
Honestly, big change.
Yeah, that's a huge change.
You're not just opening it up and you start like, all right, break out the pencil and paper. You can actually just learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah. No, which is good.
Rad.
Because obviously that's like the most important thing, is learning how to play the game, the base functions.
When my son wanted to start playing, we always did imagination backpack and stuff where, hey dad, no rules, like there's slight rules. And well, I'm like, okay, now you learn the rules. Do you want to play for real? And I bought him the Player's Handbook, his own copy. You do it, sneeze on it, whatever you want to do. And I hope he's not listening to this. Just read it. And he asked me after like a couple days of like reading through and knowing, all the species and everything else. He's like, so when do I actually learn how to play the game? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's not the beginning, is it?
Yeah, no.
Now
you got to get through a little bit. No, it's good.
Examples on how to play, and it's rad. I think this is a good change.
Yep.
Speaking of good changes, though, what if I told you about what's called a rules glossary?
Fancy pants.
Yes, this is going to be great for players, GMs alike. Basically, it's going to be, you're going to go up and open up your rules glossary near the front of the book, and it's just going to have quick explanation of like potentially difficult to find rules throughout the book. Things you might need to reference, like how does cover work? What about being prone? Jumping? What is jump distance? Stuff like that you previously would have had to search for. Now you'll just, this is why I love GM screens so much, is they have a lot of this stuff like right there for you.
The rules
not all
glossary
of
was
it
there. Yeah.
So, and that's extra things you had to purchase separately. This is why Matt Mercer has like the tabs in his books, so he can flip through really quickly. And that's, if like your pinnacle GM or DM has to do that, something's up, right? Like just one little spot, even if it tells you what pages to go to, like something. Oh, I would love that if it's just like little snippets and then like page this for reference.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
We'll see. Next, we're looking at there's also, for anyone trying to make a character quickly, or just don't care as much. Maybe it's your first character. whole spectrum. There's a table full of ability score arrays covering each class. So you don't need to roll dice. You don't need to worry about throwing in numbers. It is even more than just like a suggestion of like, hey, we think you should put these points here for your ability scores. It'll include like starting equipment. It'll include starting, your origin feat and stuff like that. Just so you can, we recommend starting with this.
Yeah. I like this a lot. This was a really cool thing to hear that they're including on here, especially the ability score array setup.
Yes.
Because I think that was probably one of the most like scary things for a new player to sit down at the table. Like whenever you're talking to somebody, is that like, okay, here's your character. You're going to be this really cool, like wizard who casts spells and everything like that. And now I need you to put these numbers in these very meaningful slots that have very specific use case scenarios that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
With no research.
Right.
If you want to, you'll have to do that later on your own time because we don't have time to do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to learn this part, or I'm going to have to explain to you what each one of these abilities is, and you're going to have to make a snap judgment right now. That's a scary, daunting thing.
Rudy had a very low constitution because I didn't understand the weight of these choices.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be really good at talking. I'll have a high charisma. I don't need constitution. What does that even mean? Well, it turns out it could take hate. That's what it means.
So yeah, this is going to be really, really cool, especially for new players. I like it. Or if you just really want to make a quick character for a one shot and you don't want to put too much thought into it.
We'll get into a bit later, but like something like GenCon even, where if you don't have time necessarily
you don't
for
have
people
time to sit down,
make characters, or hey, you can make a character if you want, blah, blah, blah. Anyone who doesn't just shows up and here you go.
Yep. No, that's going to be really cool. I'm hyped to see that in there.
Speaking of making new characters, each level 1 character, you're going to be starting with origin feats, starting feats based on your background. So each background is going to have at least, is going to have one origin feat that is going to directly affect your character.
Yeah.
And those origin feats are going to take up, 16 of the 75 total feats in the player handbook.
That's a ton.
Yes.
A ton of feats.
Rad.
And origin feats are really cool. I like this edition. It just gives you a lot more to go on with your character, and it makes you feel like you have more power, I guess.
Yeah. I like that it I say pigeonhole. I like that it puts it in a little bit of these aren't your level 1 feats,
no.
Right? You're not pulling from this wide variety. You've got origin feats that are its own special little thing. And my assumption is you're not dipping back in there after, you're hitting level 4 and stuff. You're not going back to origin feats. You're taking other feats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm cool with this.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like it.
Feats no longer optional. That's another thing going into this edition. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, it's just part of the game.
Do you know anyone that plays without feats?
No.
Same.
Because feats are fun.
Feats are fun.
That's why you don't
Not
play
food.
without feats. Yeah, because feats just they require a little bit more legwork on the GM, because if you have characters with feats, they're going to be pulling off more crazy stunts and being able to do more things that require more tracking depending on what those feats are, like alert, for example. So they're going to require more stuff for the GM, but I think it makes the characters feel better. So I don't know anybody that plays without feats or that wants to play without feats, honestly.
Yeah. So my mind wandered for about half a second in there because you said the word feats, and it reminded me of Joe from our Z Team campaign. He was a tabaxi in a wheelchair because he lost his feats. That's the second tabaxi to be in a wheelchair in our games.
You don't like tabaxi very much.
I mean, I'm totally, dude, he's very capable. he like legitimately rad dude.
There was also a lot of feet in that campaign in general. Like
that
symbology.
So that wasn't me.
Are you sure?
I'll show you the book.
Okay.
If you played through the Acquisitions Incorporated campaign, there is a temple full of feet, like a whole room, and the stomping foot and stuff. That wasn't my brain.
We'll revisit this later.
That was official content.
We'll revisit this later.
Also, hey, we buried the lead a little bit here. Azamar is an included species in the player handbook this time around. They're like, hey, we've got the tiefling. Let's balance that out a little bit. We're a little more confident in our, flying and stuff this time around. Azamar, yeah. Player handbook, you can fly without the spell. You just fly. They got, sick. Some people are hype on this, right? Am I ever going to play one? No. Well, one, I'll probably be a GM anyway. But if I'm playing in this game, I'm not going to pick one. And that's because I don't want to. Yeah. I don't have any beef against them.
I don't have any beef against them.
Anyone who's hype about this, I'm happy for you.
They're cool.
Cool to see them part of the, base species. I'm into it. Also, we have something I'm more hyped for, believe it or not. There is an expanded section on tools in this.
Sure.
What do you mean, sure?
I'm not that hype about it.
Get out of here. Action, just built-in actions for crafting and making, spell scrolls and making your own potions and healing potions, stuff like that, without having to dive into, supplementary books and stuff.
Okay.
It's awesome. Do you remember when Rudy had... I'm always going to go back to Rudy. This is never going to change. When he had his wood carving tools, and I made, stakes for the vampires, and...
Okay, but hear me out. Hear me out. That's just something you can do. You don't need rules for it.
You know what? Rules help people who don't know how to make decisions on the fly.
Okay. All right.
You don't want rules for making healing potions? You just want to be like, I just made a healing potion. And the GM's like,
yes or no?
Yeah, but how? Those cost 50 gold per
Give
level.
Me a compelling argument.
Okay.
No, I'm saying as an
world
NPC, as a PC.
Rules.
Give me
chaos.
Give me a compelling argument in the game, and I would probably let you happen if it's compelling enough and it's good enough. I'm not saying it's a bad addition. I'm just saying it's not one of my hype ones.
Richard, I'm glad that in 384 pages they actually put something that's going to be useful across campaigns.
Okay. I'm just saying it's not useful.
You sound like you want to take it out.
It's not
and put
for
in
me.
more art.
It's not for me. Is there going to be art about all these tools?
Every tool.
Yeah. I want to finally see what my gambling set looks like. That's a tool.
What? Will it? We will see in September. Or will we see it sooner? Who knows? We'll brainstorm that later. We're running out of time. There is an expanded appendix that embraces, guess what? The multiverse, Richard.
Dun, dun, dun.
Not only has Marvel done it, and DC, and Invincible, but now Wizards of the Coast themselves said Dungeons & Dragons doesn't need to just focus on the Forgotten Realms, not just Faerun, Richard, but all the locations.
Yeah, this is their own fault. They have to. This is their own fault. They made this bed. They have to sleep in it.
Yep.
And that is they have too many universes. There's too many. There's so many. They have to connect them all.
What's your favorite part of this?
My favorite part?
Yep.
Is that basically Chris Perkins says that your multiverse is part of the multiverse.
Bingo.
Oh, is that your favorite
100%.
part?
That's it.
I win.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because, we've established, every game we ever play at this table is connected. In a timeline. Yeah. From Quietus to Morkborg, it's all the same universe.
It's all connected.
It gets weird when I let Richard run games because I had to figure out how to tie that in somehow. But
Victor's in Monster of the Week too.
He is. Yeah. See, it's all connected.
Yeah.
Multiversal versions and everything else.
No, but I like the multiverse.
Marvin was in last 10 Candles.
Oh, 10 Candles.
Yeah. Last Dance.
Marvin was in the Last Dance and 10 Candles. So yeah, no, I like the multiverse thing. And like I said, it's their own fault for making so many different universes. But I like the fact that he actually mentioned the fact that they consider everybody's universes to be part of the multiverse. I'm
so happy about that. Even though it's the simplest throwaway thing, it means nothing.
Yeah, it means nothing really, but it's just funny and it's kind of cool.
Does it? Cough, cough, Greyhawk. We'll get to this. Cough, cough. All right, over to the Dungeon Master's Guide, the good old DMG. We're looking at what's going to be, they're going to include roughly what they said in the interview. Half-page sample adventures, which I think is rad, because they're not just telling you how to do something, but they're going to start it off and then let you just springboard off that into your own game.
That was cool. I think that's going to be really fun.
Yep.
I'm hyped to read
Even
these.
if it's just for how would this scenario go?
Yeah.
Start off like this, and then, here we go. And then new GMs are going to be able, and that's what this guide's really for, right? It's getting new GMs off the ground, and then veterans are going to come back for reference and learn the new rules and stuff like that. But the more you do it, the less you're going to reference it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, your rules are your rules.
Yeah.
But it's sick that you're going to be able to just go to this and actually learn how to run the game.
It's cool.
It's awesome. It's also going to include an assortment of sample maps. It's going to tell you what the DM screen is actually used for.
Hiding my stuff.
Yeah. And it's going to tell you all about buying magic items, which is daunting.
Yeah.
I have sheets of paper on different like areas where like where's the shop located and what items might they sell? What do you think they would sell? I have random generated like websites and stuff that I reference all the time. And sometimes I'm just like, yeah, they have these things because they're the things I want you to have access to throughout the campaign. And maybe you can't afford it yet. Maybe you can afford it later. It's all just kind of the same thing. And this is going to tell you advice on how to handle all that.
Yeah.
Rad.
Cool.
We're going to skip over the fact they mentioned bastions.
Ooh, bastions. Yay.
For anyone who's excited about bastions are going to be in the Dungeon Master's Guide as an optional way for your players to have utilize downtime, build up bastions. I mean, it could be castles, it could be just shrines, it could be shops,
libraries,
whatever you want. All of them in one. We're not going to use it, so we're going to skip it.
That's not a if you're okay with bastions, that's cool. I am not excited for bastions. Tyler's not excited for bastions. Our friends, they're excited for bastions.
Friends?
Yeah.
At least one of them.
Well, no, at least two of them, because like we almost had a vote for the last campaign that we were in whether or not we were going to include bastions in it.
Did he want it though, or was he just wanting to try new things?
Everybody wanted to, except for us. We're all like, we were going to be the poo-pooers, and we were like, we don't want to do bastions.
It just makes the timeline of your, because there's like set timelines for how often things happen. And here we go again. And it doesn't make sense when the campaign is like world-ending crisis that's going to take place over 2 to 3 weeks. And you need at least a month before the next stage of your bastion happens.
Yeah.
If you're going to build a whole homebrew like game, or if they make modules based around this, it could be really friggin' cool. The Z Team campaign with the Acquisition Corporate campaign was all about running your own franchise. And we made that work. We introduced characters and how things changed. You guys got an allotment of gold, rebuilt up things. Then we did like a flash forward so many months down the road. And it was cool. I actually can picture what your guys' bastion in this, this example, your franchise looks like.
Yeah.
Overall, we're not going to use this in Curse of Strahd.
No.
Like, it's cool for those who want it.
I was going to say, it is what it is.
Be using it most
for
of the time.
people that like it. We're not going to use it.
Yep.
So
there is also going to be in the DMG a full lore glossary, which is going to include names, places, and notable areas spanning all of Dungeons & Dragons' 50 years.
That's cool.
Sick.
I like being able to have a lore glossary that you can reference.
Yeah. Legitimately, like everything from like, who's Mordenkainen?
Yeah. Who's
Mordenkainen? Are they the same person? Depends who you ask. Are you want to know who Tasha is and what's a big deal about her cauldron? She'll be in here. I think it's sick. It'll tell you where they're all from. It'll tell you what they've accomplished. Different things about the worlds. This is huge. This could be its own book.
Yeah.
But instead it's here in the 384 pages. They managed to squeeze it in there. Speaking of Greyhawk, I'm pulling that little needle out earlier, pin out from earlier. They are fleshing out Greyhawk. Yes, we're going all the way back to what Gary Gygax co-created back in the day and kind of hasn't gotten a whole lot of love over the generations, but is the birthplace of a lot of important characters. Speaking of Mordenkainen and Tasha and stuff. It's a big deal. So they're bringing it back for this 50th and they're fleshing it out a whole bunch, but also not
a lot,
tying it off.
Yeah.
They're leaving it as that springboard location for you to build out yourself. And they're going to include a map, a like world map and like city map and stuff. And like, these are locations, start here. And then when you leave, you kind of just do what you want. And the DM guide showing you how to world build and stuff is perfect pairing for a location like this.
Yeah.
And everyone's Greyhawk is going to look a little different or drastically different.
Yeah.
And it
could be very different.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I like that.
I like it a lot. The cover of the book is actually, featuring stuff from Greyhawk and stuff. And I'm into it. Cover of the book being the Players Handbook. Ooh, I wonder what the DM guide, and the Monster Man are going to look like.
I want to see the Monster
Man. I want to see them real bad.
Yeah.
I want to see them real bad, Richard. All right, over to the Monster Manual. Yeah. Biggest Monster Manual ever. We're talking 500 monsters, Richard. 75 of those, brand new. Not 500 new monsters, which would have been insane. You got to have the ones back.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing, right? We got 75 brand new monsters, which is pretty big friggin' deal. every single stat block of those 425 brought over monsters, every single one has been entirely changed or adjusted.
Yeah, they had to. That's a lot of stats.
Yes.
That is so many stats.
Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see what's changed for everybody, especially with the fact that challenge rating is still here.
So, real quick,
Uh-huh.
because we don't have it in our notes here, and we've talked a lot about art.
Yes.
Has it ever been referenced anywhere whether or not we're going to get a piece of art for every monster?
Yes. We're getting art for everyone.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that is huge.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Going back to, like, way back when, we're talking like 2nd edition and stuff like that when I was playing, and the monster manual did not have a lot of pictures.
It's just describing.
It just had
art's
descriptions,
expensive.
and there were like, and sometimes you wouldn't even get like full artwork. So like the semi-demon, like Alu, you had like a bust, like literally just like the head, not like the rest of the body or anything like that. So you had to like really imagine the rest of it. Like you had to, use your imagination to come up with these things. And it would have like all these different interpretations of what people thought that monster actually looked like, which is not a bad thing. But I was just curious as whether or not it's been said whether or not we're going to have individual art for all 500 of these monsters.
Yeah.
And if we are, that's super exciting.
When I said they're going all out in art this time around for these 3 books, yeah, they're doing it.
Cool.
If every weapon is getting a piece of art, every monster is getting a piece of art.
I like that.
It's going to be really cool. And part of what's cool about that is they're expanding into what's kind of described as like monster families, right? And it's so that you can kind of have an idea of how to build out and connect like ecosystems of creatures and what might live in the area and stuff like that. But also, and most important to me, if you want to fight a vampire, right? You want to throw a vampire at your players, but they're lower level. Well, they're not ready to go after a full-fledged vampire. They're not ready to go for Strahd. You know what I mean? So you've got a weaker version of a vampire, and it might be someone that's just turned or is mid-change. And while they still are a vampire, they don't have access to all the vampiric powers. They might not have that health regen. They might not, have, all the same abilities, legendary actions, things like that. But it's someone they can take on. And then you still want vampires. You want a vampire heavy story. Maybe there's different levels of vampire throughout the game. Even stronger than a previous 5th edition vampires. They've brought out a whole new top tier super vampire called the Nightbringer. I'm so excited to see this thing in that glorious art that we know we're getting.
Yeah.
And to see how tough this Nightbringer is.
This is interesting because I wonder how many families there are going to be. And I also wonder, is the brand new, is it including these families?
Right.
So
it has to, right?
Is 2 of these 75 just 2 variations of vampires?
So good. So Nightbringer, totally. It has to be. It's got its own name.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends.
Because the vampire is now 3 different categories or 3 different levels.
Right.
Or are they considering it like, is it going to be like vampire as a creature and then like a family and then subcategories of like, these are the vampires, they consider that one creature? Or is that 3 different creatures for the purpose of
I wouldn't
creatures?
be surprised at all if a lot of these are, a lot of those
families.
75s are families.
Are families, yeah.
And I wouldn't be mad about it.
No, I'm not mad about it. I'm just curious. Yeah. I'm just curious as to how it's going to be
different
organized.
enough, right?
And
then,
that, yeah, I mean, like, and that's, I guess, the next question, too, is I'm assuming this is going to be in alphabetical, right? So is the vampire family, they're all going to be together, right? Or is the Nightbringer going to be under N for Nightbringer? Or is it going to be under V for vampire? Because
I want to see the organization.
Or are families going to be their own subcategory because those are special monster groupings that have, like, difference in there?
Good point.
So I'm curious to see how they're going to lay this out. Yeah.
Is it vampire and then Nightbringer?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
So I'd like to see how they're going to lay this out.
Right. Same. Well, we have to wait a bit. Oh, but then again, we haven't had a playtest in a while, and they have said we will get things for like Monster Manual and DMG and stuff. So with these books or Players book dropping in September, we're probably not getting any more playtests for that. They got to get it to print soon. Maybe we'll see some of this stuff sooner than later.
Maybe.
But it's even better than a super vampire, Richard. They've teased what's basically going to be these epic, like, Titan type encounters. Think of them as like top of the food chain monsters and kind of like peers to like the Trask and ancient dragons. Like these big, crazy monsters you don't ever want to fight, even at level 20, they're gonna kick your butt probably. But still fun to try.
That's the stuff legends are made of.
Right. One of the ones teased here is the Blob of Annihilation.
The idea of this is so great.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Think like a ooze, a gelatinous slime, or a cube or something that's the size of a city. And it's just churning towards you, and it just eviscerates everything in its path.
This one is just weird to me because like I envision and am terrified of the idea of fighting an ancient dragon or a Tarrasque, right?
Yes.
'Cause it's like this gigantic thing. But when you think about it, you're thinking about a Tarrasque. Like, yes, it's gigantic. Yes, it's terrifying. But you're saying there's a chance, like you could do something to it, right?
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
If I'm imagining a blob of annihilation, what do you do other than run?
What do you do? Does it hurt it if you slice it? Or you just
I don't. This is like I would love to see this in a game because I want to see how the players come up with. Like I want to see the ideas that get floated across that inn table.
Yeah.
About how we're going to save this city from the blob of annihilation that's like a couple miles up the road that's just slowly churning towards us.
I'm picturing a like Majora's Mask campaign where the moon is crashing into the planet, but after bringing back time so many times, you realize this blob of annihilation is also slowly moving towards you, and you got to time it just right. You got to set this up to where you take care of both problems, or maybe everything's just going to end and this is a 10 candle situation and there's no winning.
This one sounds really cool, though. I love the idea of these epic encounters.
Yes.
Because it's just like epic encounters, right?
Like Steam Forge games.
It's really cool because it's just these, massive legendary type things that, they're not going to be for every campaign, but to be able to bring out something like this seems like a lot of fun.
I'm very hype for the mini air quotes.
Oh God.
Of the blob
I didn't even
annihilation.
consider about that. There's no mini for this.
I just...
No, you know what it is? One of those blow up couches. You just bring that into your game room and set it in the corner. And then you're like, I would like to turn everyone's attention to the corner of the room and just point at the green couch. And they're like, yeah, it's a blow up couch. Like, no, that, my friends, is the blob of annihilation on the horizon.
Haven't you slowly been moving that across the room over the last few weeks?
Every 5 minutes, you just go up and you just kind of inch it a little bit closer to the game table.
Got like a fishing string.
Yeah, just pull it. Oh God,
I'm hype about the blob.
This is gonna be funny.
Another thing that they're doing for this is they're doing a big focus on expanding groups of NPCs, and by groups, it's almost like families, right?
Yeah,
we're talking like pirates and bandits, entertainers, mages, etc. These ones they've named at various power levels, making them useful at various situations. Making them viable, so that you can bring in like a group of bandits. And you're like, well, we're level 15 adventurers. What do we care if there's a group of bandits? And they're like, yeah, they're scaled for that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, neat.
That's cool.
They can be viable challenge or allies, assistants, from a group of mages or entertainers even. Things can actually matter throughout the game now, not just low-level content. Because traditionally right now, how many games are you in that go out, past level 10?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Things, start to matter less for the next 10 levels. And that includes things like NPCs. Unless you go, out of your way and scale them up either on the moment or pre-plan and stuff like that. But now it's done for you. Mm-hmm. I'm into it.
Can't be mad about it.
384 pages. Got to fill it up some. But that was the last of the main talking points I wanted to do for these 3 books and, the Game Informer article. So,
yeah, it was really cool. And I didn't expect to see this article at all. It was a surprise to me.
Seeing it from Game Informer?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And this is actually a lot of really useful information. There was a lot of really cool stuff in here that we didn't know, that we were just speculating on before, even though it's not like, a solid concrete stuff, but there's some really good stuff in here. I like it.
Really quick, and I don't know how this is going to go at all.
Uh-oh.
Because 1, it might not happen. 2, it might happen. Our good friend of the show and past DM, Garrett Phillips, was supposed to be on the show with us tonight, but unfortunately had some things come up. We tried recording another day, and it's the same there too, but he is willing and able to record his thoughts and is going to shoot that over to us. So it's going to be Garrett from the future, and we don't know what he's going to say, and he doesn't know what we're saying right now.
Exactly.
So I'm going to pitch it to him right now, and hopefully we didn't say too many of the same things, and if we did, yay, we agreed, but hopefully we didn't, and we can talk about it later. And go Garrett! I'm just going to cut all this and switch to his full screen video, but I imagined if it was like 30 seconds long, just silencing what I'm saying right now, and just throwing him right here.
Yeah.
And we're just like talking. Yeah. But most likely it'll just completely cut to him.
Yeah.
And then we'll just fade back into us.
Even do it.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, this is
okay too.
Extra weird. And then the question becomes, do I just leave this part in? Or do I cut this entirely and just cut to, ha ha ha, that was great, Garrett.
Oh, that Garrett.
Yeah. Always know what he's going to say.
Yep.
Love having him on. Thank you, Garrett, for sending that in. That sounds so insincere, but genuinely.
No, yeah, we really.
Thank you.
I was actually kind of excited to have Garrett on this episode.
Yeah, that's we moved it. We moved recording because we wanted to
because
his input
we wanted
on this.
to get his input because he's got a lot of really good input, especially with his
Always
knowledge
does.
and everything like that. So yeah, I was super hyped to get him on the table with us, talking with us, like live. But of course, we couldn't make it happen. So.
Next time. It's going to happen more and more often as we get closer and closer to release these books. So,
yes.
Woo, definitely expect to see some more Garrett on the podcast going forward. Quick question before we jump out of here and end up, in some weird thing where you tell me about all the characters of yours I've killed or something. And I asked you this earlier, not to get your answer, but I just prep your answer. Do you think at this point we will see a physical release of the Player Handbook at GenCon? We're talking now a month early from local game store release, if so, right? September 3rd all the way back to like August.
Yeah,
it's quite a stretch.
That's quite a stretch. However, there's definitely going to be something going on with these books at GenCon.
Really?
Because they're in an event hall.
They're going to be talking about them.
They're going to be talking about them. They have to be talking about them.
They've got panels.
But they also have rooms in the event hall for this. And we saw how the event hall was used last year, right? As far as like, people previewing books and everything like that, like how Daggerheart was handled and everything. Right. And I can definitely see it happening. I don't know how confident I am in them giving out that many copies. I say giving out, but allowing for purchase of that many copies.
If they sell and it's limited to like, I could see like one per person, right?
Yeah.
But if they like only show up with like 100 copies, it's going to be bad. We saw like there was people pushed out of wheelchairs and shoved and everything for Disney cards last year.
Yeah.
And they had those available every single morning.
Yeah.
If they're like, we have 100 copies for the weekend, it's going to be chaos.
But that's the thing.
And the price of those would skyrocket.
That's the thing though, is that nuts. Like there's no way that they would be able to show up with enough books to get everybody that goes to GenCon a copy of that book.
I don't know.
That's not possible. There is not okay. I don't think there's a realm in which they have enough books to satiate the crowds.
So there would be a limit, of course.
So there's going to be a limit if they do have a book here.
Do you think it's purposefully limited? Or do you think it's just as many as they can bring?
I think it would be as many as they could bring. I don't think they would like bring 100 books and just be
not artificially limiting
this. Artificially limit this and we're just going to trickle out 100 books. I don't think that they would do it like that. I think that they would bring as many as they could bring to this event because I don't really see a negative to this.
You don't think you're going to see scans online or scalpers reselling?
So that would be the only thing would be
people
scans
trying to get it a month early.
Or scalpers. But there's going to be scalpers no matter what, right? If any kind of early release, there's going to be people that are going to get that book just to resell it. 100%. They can't control that. They can't stop that. It's going to happen.
You do take away from the whole, you got this big push of like, hey, don't buy online, buy from your friendly local gaming store.
Which is
You'll get it 2 weeks early.
I'm on the fence.
Right.
Because they've been really like, hey, we want to support the FLGS. This is how you can get it early, right? I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Ooh,
they're not selling it at GenCon. No, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that they're going to be there.
Yes.
You're going to have restricted access to these rooms in the event hall. You're
really?
going to have to sign up to get in there, or it's going to be a line to get in. It's not just going to be an open door, walk in and walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this is going to be a kind of a closed room situation where at least there's going to be a line because so many people are going to be able to be allowed in those rooms, period.
Mm-hmm.
If they just open up the door to those event rooms are not gigantic.
Yeah.
They're large, but they're not huge. And just because of fire codes alone, they're not going to be able to just open up the doors and let everybody go in there. Because it will be a madhouse if they do that. So it is going to be a controlled environment in which they're going to allow people to come in and possibly actually see the books, hold them, look at them. I think they're going to be there.
Books or player handbook?
Player handbook. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, the player handbook. I think it's going to be there, and I think you're going to be able to hold that book and look at it and everything like that. You're not going to be able to buy it. I think you're going to be able to look at it, take pictures of it or whatever, not scan the entire book. I think they'll probably allow some pictures and stuff like that. But I don't think you're going to be able to buy it. I think they're just going to have it there for look and preview and questions and comments. They'll probably have like some limited material pamphlet style to give out, that kind of thing, to hype people up, like give them a taste of it, like probably some
art and stuff.
half-page art that you can get for going there and checking out the book, like some stuff to hang on your wall. That's going to be there, I believe, but I don't think you're gonna be able to buy the book. And that's my official prediction.
It's interesting. So they have a panel for of course the Players Handbook. They have another panel talking about the Dungeon Master's Guide. I bet we see the cover revealed.
Oh yeah, I think we'll see the cover revealed. I really hope we see the Monster Manual cover, and that's asking a lot. I don't know, but I hope we see.
I didn't see a event for that. Maybe it'd be there. Maybe there's an event and I just missed it. As far as my prediction, I am also extremely on the fence, and because I like to be the devil's advocate from you and everything, I want to roll with hope.
Okay.
I want to hope for me personally because we'll be at GenCon. I want to get my hands on this book as early as possible.
This is a GenCon morning iced coffee bet.
Ooh, sure. Yeah. GenCon, you know what? GenCon morning iced coffee bet. If they're there, you'll be purchasing me a delicious GenCon iced coffee. And if it's not there, I'll be doing that for you.
Yep.
Sounds great. But yes, we've seen other companies sell games as early as 2 weeks before.
Yes.
Bigby's was out like 2 weeks before. It only gets weird because of the local game store push.
Yes.
If it was a month just period, I think for sure 100% Gen Con, absolutely. It gets funky. But on the fence, got to choose a side. I'm saying it'll be there.
Yep. And I think you already said previously, because I think we talked about this before, that if it was there, you're going to be spending an inordinate amount of time in a line for it.
For sure. Which is fine. Day one, Thursday morning, I understand.
He is prepared to sacrifice his entire Gen Con trip for you.
You're going to go in and check out
and the viewers
all the booths while I'm sitting in a line for hours at a time.
Enjoying
my delicious Gen Con iced coffee.
Yeah, at least you will be well refreshed and awake the entire time you're in the line. No, I'll bring you stuff to the line, I'll go buy a game.
Look all these games I bought.
I was going to say, I'll buy some games, we'll bring them, and we'll sit in line and play some games. I'll go buy more games, I'll come back.
Here, hold my stuff.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything else.
I can just drop it off to you. Yeah, you're going to be like a little repository for all the stuff that we buy throughout the day.
That's what I want to be, your repository.
I'm not a queuer. I'm afraid of the queue, especially if it's going to be like days long. I don't have the constitution that you have.
Days.
I don't have the constitution that you have. We saw the
3
Lorcana.
days. Yeah.
People lining up like the day before. That was a 13 card
hours.
game. That was a card game.
Right.
For a player's
big deal
handbook?
there. That's a big deal. Also, Gen Con exclusive card, which sold for about as much money as we spent going to Gen Con.
Yeah, and how much do you think scalpers are going to scalp that book for when they get it?
A book that you can get anywhere a month later? Not as much as a Disney Mickey card. Also, the Disney IP versus a IP that has had troubled waters over the last year or two. I think there's going to be less hype for the 2024 revision of the Players Handbook than there was Disney's Lorcana.
Okay, so the iced coffee bet is for 1 day. Side bet for the second day iced coffee on whether or not this line is going to be longer than 10 hours.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be longer than 10 hours.
I think it will be longer than 10 hours. It's going to be a 10-hour or longer.
No, this isn't 2 if it's not there. You don't get 2 coffees automatically if you win.
Yeah, that's what that means.
No.
Because the wait is longer than 10 hours. It's like a month and a half.
But the line
We're
at
not
Gen
playing
Con,
prices right here.
The line at Gen Con was nothing.
Yeah.
No. Okay. If it is there, coffee. If it's longer than 10 hours, coffee.
Yeah.
Even coffee.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It kind of just evens out.
Nullifies coffee.
Or I get
You know what's the
two
best part
coffees.
is if it is there and I get in line and it's less than 10 hours, I just get 2 coffees.
Hey, you get 2 coffees. Yeah.
This is a dumb bet.
We'll see.
But for now, I've been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we've been True Strike. See ya!
Bye.
Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on X, Threads, or Instagram. New episodes released every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike.